Okay, I have my Viper ready to go. I've got my landing skids on it. I'm heavier than I had planned on. My landing skids ended up being about 14.5 grams, and my goal was to hit 8 to 10 grams. So my all-up weight now with the 3S 1300 milliamp hour 30C LiPo is 483 grams. I'm 13 grams over spec, but we'll see how that works out. My landing skids only give me about an inch clearance from the ground on those servo protectors, so I'm not real happy about that. So I think I'm going to try and find some larger diameter, maybe a little thinner walled pipe to fabricate my landing skids out of on down the road on specific planes so I can get them higher up off of the ground. I would rather have this about, I would rather have about 2 inches of clearance on those servo protectors rather than 1 because of the gravel out there. Anyway, we'll see how that works out. I am ready to launch this. I'm real anxious to get this one in the air, so I will see you out at the field. Okay, time to put the Viper in the air, and after my experience with the T-33, I have dialed down my dual rates on this all the way down to 60% with 60% expo, so I don't know how twitchy the Viper is going to be. But that's just full manual mode. There's no gyro in it, so I wish I would have launched the T-33 in full manual mode, but I didn't. Alright, so let's see what we've got here. Hey, we're up and running with this one. I've got my timer set for 2.5 minutes. Yeah, looks like we have good elevator authority. Nice climb, stall there at the top. It was well behaved. Wow, nice roll rate even at 60% dual rate, so I am very happy. I'm very happy that I dialed these down. The controls do feel a little soft, so I am going to dial down my expo a little bit, but the control surface movement at 60% dual rate feels pretty good. Yeah, very well behaved. I think I want a little more on the elevator though. I think I'll dial the elevator back up to 70% dual rate and see how that feels. Roll rate looks good. Alright, I'm starting to get my haptics, so let me check direction over here. It looks like we're clear. I don't know how efficient the EDF unit is going to be. So let's get lined up here, see if we can land on our skids and see if our skids hold up. And I'm just floating it in right now. It's just gliding. Oh! Saw my canopy come off. It is a floater, guys. Oh no, one of my winglets came off. Let me see, my skids are still on there. Alright. It looks like for some reason on these latest airframes that I've gotten, these EPO airframes, my foam cure does not seem to be holding very well.
I don't know what's going on with that. But I'm going to see if I can tape this down, this winglet down, and then put this in the air again. But I want to see what kind of voltage I've got left. Because I was somewhere between 70 to 100% throttle most of the time. It did seem like it had pretty darn good power, even at 5,700 feet above sea level. It had a very good vertical climb, and when I stalled it there at the top, when I rolled it over, it didn't spiral, it didn't drop a wing. So let's see here. Oh, 3.8. Okay, so I think I'm going to bump my timer up to 3 minutes on this next flight, but I've got to get this winglet taped on the end of this wing. Look at that. It came clean off. I mean, there's not a wrinkle or anything in it. It just popped off. All right, so I'll see if I can get that temporarily repaired, and we'll put it back in the air again, because that was a nice handling jet in the air. I'm going to bump my expo down a little bit, put a little more into the elevator, and then we'll see if we can toss it back in the air again. See you in a minute. Okay, this is the last of my 3S 1300 milliamp hour 30C LIPOs. I kept the CG where it was. I thought that worked really well. I increased the dual rate on the ailerons by 5 points, left the expo where it was. And I'm going to have to see if I can slow this down a little bit more coming in for a landing, because when it hits this hard pack, it just bounces back up in the air. It really glides very well, but I did see a drop in the nose when I got down close to the ground. So let's see. Launching. But it seems to handle really well. This is just my very first flight session with it, so doing anything too crazy with it. Now to the left, the roll rate looks really good. Now let's come back here and try it to the right again. And didn't that look really axial, like the balance and the trim is really good? All the control surfaces are in a neutral position. Yeah, it looks a little slower to me to the right than it does to the left. Look at that. Look at that. Just stall at the top. And it still maintains its attitude. That's pretty slick. That was a tight turn. Yeah, I really think they hit the mark with this one. Doesn't that sound cool? Yeah, it's just getting my dual rate and my expo settings, you know, to the point where it's most comfortable for me. But pretty, you know, so far it's a very, very nice handling jet, and this is just all manual mode. There's no gyro in it. Very stable. And now it's, I've got it a little more responsive on the controls than the first couple of flights that I had. Okay, so there we go. All right, and I had my timer set for 3 minutes, make sure nobody's coming. All right, so let's see if we can slow this down a little bit more coming in for a landing here. She's getting pretty twitchy there at the end. I slowed up too much. All right, let's see if we're still intact. My skids are still on there. Can you believe that? It looks like it's holding up really well, even with the amount of punishment I'm giving it on landings. But I've just got to get the speed just right coming in here. Otherwise, it's going to bounce back in the air. But I almost had it there. Almost had it. I think if I hadn't pulled back on the elevator too soon, I'd have gotten it down nice and pretty. But it does float coming in for a landing. Okay, time to test it out with the 3S 1500 milliamp hour 35C LIPOs. See how it handles that. I was pretty impressed with the amount of voltage I still had in those little 3S 1300 milliamp hour 30C LIPOs after my flights. So let's see how this weight feels. A little more sluggish on launch, even though it's only 19 grams. I know there's guys flying this with 3S 2200 milliamp hour LIPOs at sea level, but I'm at 5,700 feet, and that makes a difference. Oh, that looked pretty good to the right that time. Maybe I just had more speed when I was rolling to the left last time. Yeah, they look pretty good. Handles this additional weight just fine, I think. I'll have to see what the voltage is after a 3-minute flight with these. Might be able to bump my timer up to 3.5 minutes out here and still have some in reserve for landing, you know, in case I have to do some circuits. Loops still look good. Not bad. The split S maneuver looked good with this battery. As I get more comfortable with it, we'll be able to do more with it. And I need to get my speed down on my landings. Boy, that's pretty hard on an airframe. Okay, my timer is about to expire. It looks like I'm free and clear to navigate. Now this is a little heavier, not much. 19 grams, maybe it won't be so floaty coming in. I slowed up a little too much in my last flight session. Alright, I am off the power there. Well, at least my canopy didn't come off that time. It still wanted to glide forever. But it felt really good with the little heavier battery. It didn't take off quite as well on launch as it did with the lighter weight battery. And I'm still bouncing up and down off the hard pack when I bring it in. And I'll be darned if my skids aren't still intact. And my winglet is still taped on and it's still there. I think I'm going to reinforce the other one with tape too, just to be on the safe side. And my horizontal stabilizer feels good. But yeah, it looks like when it dropped the nose, I don't know if you can see this on camera, but when it dropped the nose, it looks like it actually compressed the foam on one side a little bit. Last time I was out, I'm going to have to give it a hot water treatment and straighten that out. It doesn't seem to have affected its flight performance at all, but that's pretty cool. Okay, so let's check the voltage in it now on these 1500s. And I had the timer set for 3 minutes. Get the battery out of here. I had to push this, even though it's only 19 grams heavier, I had to push it way back from where I had the smaller batteries to keep the same CG. 3.8, 3.8, 3.8.
Okay, so this went exceptionally well. The other airframe, the other plane, the other EDF jet did not go so well. And here at ground control you get to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. But I thought I would publish the good first and then publish what turned out to be really bad and really ugly. So that'll be coming up after this one. But this one was an absolute joy to fly. It takes off nice, even at 5,700 feet above sea level on a 3S LiPo. It has sufficient amount of power. The only bad tendency that I saw from this plane, and I think it was on my first landing when I came in, is I came in and I got off the throttle. You know, after I got it low to the ground, I cut the throttle completely off, and it really nosed down kind of abruptly. And like I was saying, the nose hit the dirt hard enough that it actually compressed a little bit of foam right here. So I've got to give it a hot water treatment and straighten that back out. But other than that, you know, and popping my winglet off, I don't know. The last couple of airframes that I've received, I normally use foam cure, foam tack, but I don't know if the foam, you know, they're making the foam a lot slicker than it used to be. You know, it's not as bumpy. It's much more smooth. And that glue's just not holding it on there very well. It just popped the glue loose. So I'm gonna have to re-secure that with different glue. But it handled extremely well. The drop in the nose on that first landing is the only bad tendency that I've seen from this plane so far. I only saw it once. And maybe that was because I was pretty level with it. I didn't have any, you know, up attitude on the nose, you know, before I cut the throttle on it. Maybe that's what caused the nose to dip a little bit. Maybe it created a little drag, I don't know. But it flies exceptionally well. It was very stable. I've just about got the control surfaces and the amount of expo in it, you know, to have it handling the way I like it to. At least at this point, with the number of flights that I have on it, I do suggest that you know, if you get this plane, that you go below the recommended control surface movements for your maiden flight and put in quite a bit of expo just to make sure it's not twitchy on you. The CG, the specified CG, I was right in the center of the range, the specified range for the CG. I had a neutral balance on the plane. You saw how nice and tight and axial the rolls were. It maintained its level attitude through the entire roll, both directions. So I think that the balance is really good on it. I've got all my control surfaces in a completely neutral position. So the plane is balanced very well at that CG point. I like it. The stability, I can make, you know, wide sweeping turns with it. I can make really tight turns. I never got a wobble out of the wing, and when I was doing that, when I was doing my vertical, and I would wait until it was just about completely out of steam before I would roll it over, and I would keep in the throttle, and it would just, you know, it would pretty much stall at the top, and then it would come back down. And it never dropped a wing, it never wavered from its attitude. So extremely stable. If you're transitioning from prop planes to EDF, this would definitely be one of the ones that I would recommend for your first EDF jet. It's just great. I mean, I had a blast with it. Now, I want to take it out next time, and I want to test it with 3S Plus power system in it. That's going to be a 4S LiPo, limiting the top end of the throttle so that I'm not going above that 30 amp ESC. I don't want to damage the ESC on it. So, but that should give it a lot more power, and my 4S 1300 milliamp hour LiPos are supposed to be delivered today. They're going to get here a day early. So as soon as I have the weather again, the wind forecast again, to put this back in the air, I am definitely going to be taking this out and putting some 4S LiPos to it. So be looking for that. I will go ahead and publish my setup file. I'll go ahead and take the measurements on my control throws and everything tonight. I will try to get those posted on our Facebook page sometime this week. So if you want a setup that works really well, that's not too aggressive, that should give you a very good maiden flight, I will publish what my setup is. I really like the way it flew and the way it handled and the way it was balanced with the way I have it set up currently. So I don't think anybody will have any problem getting a successful maiden flight out of it. You have to be careful when you're coming in for a landing. I tried to slow it down as much as I possibly could. When it gets close to stall speed, you don't get a real abrupt wing wag out of it, but what you get is you get the plane start wandering. The plane will start wandering from side to side. I think you could see that when I was bringing in for a landing. I got a little bit too slow with it, and then it started wandering over the lane before I could get it down on the ground. So you do have to maintain a little bit of speed with it coming in for a landing. You can't slow it down too much without it either dropping the nose or with it wandering all over the place. So, but it wasn't going to stall. That was the good thing. I mean, it has very good stall characteristics. So anyway, stay tuned for some 3S Plus power system flights with some 4S LiPos. I look for this to have a lot of power with that setup.
Thanks for watching us in the air.